Now, to deploy our application, we have a few options. We can use Vercel, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, Heroku, and so on. Out of all these, Vercel, in my opinion, is the fastest and the best way to deploy a Next.js application because it's built by the same company that has built Next.js. So head over to vercel.com, create an account, and sign in. Once you sign in on your dashboard, you'll be able to create a new project. Now here we have to import our Git repository. So first we have to connect Vercel with GitHub. All right, the connection is done. Now over here, we can see all of our Git repositories. I'm going to import this next course repository. Good. On this page, we give our project a name. You can see that the framework is automatically picked because there is beautiful integration between Next.js and Vercel. The root directory is set as well. We don't have to change anything. Down here, we have the build and output settings. So we have npm run build. So every time we do a push to GitHub, Vercel downloads our latest code and runs npm run build to build it. So if there are any build errors, they will show up here. But as I told you, it's always easier to see build errors on our local machine than a production server. Now here we also have the output directory and the command for installing the packages. But what is important is setting our environment variables. Because in our project, we have a bunch of environment variables stored in this env file. For example, we have our database URL. Now this database URL is pointing to a database sitting on our local machine. But when we deploy our application to production, we need a production MySQL database, one that is sitting on the cloud. There are many services that give us MySQL hosting. We have DigitalOcean, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, Hostinger, GoDaddy, and so on. So you get a production MySQL database, then you get your database URL and store it as an environment variable here, database URL. Now, unfortunately, I cannot show you that in this video. It's outside the scope of this course, but you know what you need to do to deploy your application to production. Similarly, you need a cloudinary cloud name for your production environment. So this cloud that we have here, this is only for development. This is where the files that we upload will be stored during development. But we need to have a separate storage for our production environment. I showed you how to do that earlier when I talked about Cloudinary. So here on Cloudinary console, down here, you can see all your product environments. You can easily create a new environment. Once you do that, you get the environment name and store it as an environment variable. Now, similarly, we need to store the other keys like nextauth URL, nextauth secret, and so on. Just make sure not to use these values because if you use the same key, both for development and production, and then someone gets access to your computer, they will have access to this key, and using this key, they can do something to your production environment. So always have different environment variables for your development and production environment. Now, back to this page. We don't want to set anything here. Let's click deploy. All right, our deployment failed, which is very common. So in the next lesson, I will show you how to troubleshoot deployment errors.